the answers, tell me the answers. I could find you, I could find
From the Sporting News Studios, this is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Matt Litevsky.
I got all the answers, all the answers. I could find you, I could find all the answers. If you let me get it close and study you.
Back for another week, Jacob.
Yeah.
Fantasy season just will not end.
It's almost there, but it's still going right now.
It's still going.
We're in the double digits now.
I know. We can see. After Thanksgiving is when it really is like, all right, you're in, you're out, whatever happens, and
You just kind of drown your sorrows in turkey.
just whatever. I mean, if you're having a bad season, you can sort of officially throw in the towel. If you're having a good season, you're thinking about the playoffs, how to make your team better. Focus on what really matters. Fantasy, not family, but fantasy football.
No, fantasy is the most important F in the world.
Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
I don't know, most important F. I've never heard of that.
I live my life by the 5 Fs.
You just go by letters. That's one way to do it. All right, as you know, I'm Mal Tusky, senior editor. Sporting News Fantasy here with Jacob Kamaker, Sporting News Fantasy intern. No Eric this week. He's still in Europe. That's fine. We don't need him. He said he listened and he said it wasn't the same. I was like, without you?
What
kind of narcissist says that?
Yeah, it's like, oh, it wasn't the same without me.
Yeah, boy,
It's like Hugh Jackson and the Browns. It's not the same without him.
Boy, I really make things better when I'm around.
I am the smartest man alive!
But anyway, we'll still power through. We'll go through the highest trending, most searched players like we always do. We'll go through our good starts, bad starts. We don't call them sleepers and busts, but, it's basically sleepers and busts. Let's be honest.
Yeah, we'll be honest with that, but it's just us hedging our bets a little bit.
A little bit. We'll go through them. We'll look at some random stuff off the field, but we'll start, as we do every single week, by looking back at last week at some things again, we don't call them busts, so we're not
like super wrong about this.
Not quite on the hook for some of we were just talking. We were just talking out loud. That's all we were doing.
If you decided to trust us, that's your prerogative.
Well, it's not even trust us. It's just if you decided to bench guys, that's on you, not us, because we never said start sit. We never said bust. Never said any of those words. So just so we're all cleared on the same page here. But yeah, we like to go back and sort of look at things we got right, or really not right. We just look at the things we got wrong.
Yeah, what's the fun in looking back at what you got right?
Yeah, then we'd be a bunch of Erics sitting here patting ourselves on the back, talking about how great we are.
We are not glory boys.
No, exactly. We're not Cam Newton glory boys over here. So one thing I know I got wrong last week. And I got wrong in my own lineup, and it cost me the week. I was talking up Ito Smith. I think we all kind of liked the Falcons in that game. And I should have switched that out because if you recall, this was not on Mike. I said to you, I'm kind of worried about the Falcons. The more I looked at the temperature, it's going to be like in the 30s or 40s. And I just looked at the dome team and everything. I said, I don't know. I'm kind of getting worried about the Falcons now.
Yeah, that was on about Thursday at about 3:57 p.m. So
right.
It was post-podcast, but...
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, no, you were definitely right about the end result of that game, and you got worried about Ito, but, the damage had already been done at that point.
But you think but they'll run then, right? If it's cold or whatever, they'll just run more because the Browns aren't a good run defense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it made sense, but they just rolled mostly with Tevin Coleman in key situations and by the goal line. And, Ito got some snaps and some targets, but by the point that he was, in the game and sharing snaps, it seemed like it was more out of reach and just better fit for Coleman. So.
And he just wasn't very good. So that hurt the cause. And that's the biggest thing, I think, with a guy like that, right, is he's just not very good. As much as we kind of want him to be.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's kind of what it boils down to. And he's also a rookie, so he's going to have some inconsistent performances.
Well, and that's why it was so confusing when Tevin Coleman, who's just a better back, was ceding touches to him before.
Yeah.
And now the question is going forward, it looked like, hey, Ito Smith's a pretty good flex. He's getting close to 10 touches a game. He's getting some goal line touches. And now we're in this weird spot with him where, is he anything?
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know. And this week, tough matchup against the Cowboys. I like the Falcons back at home, but I don't think you can start them this week.
No, I wouldn't say you could start Ito this week. I mean, I think you still have to hang on to him because he's a top handcuff who does get some action at least. And like it may trend downward as the season goes along, but
Yeah. Hang on to him, but don't start him this week.
yeah, just kind of see where you're at after week 11. If he gets like 2 touches and no yards, then you can start thinking about maybe
It's all about, at this point, again, if you're looking ahead to the fantasy playoffs, it's all about matchups. So you look at him. Dallas this week, bad. At New Orleans, bad. Baltimore, bad. Green Bay in week 14, okay, decent. The big payoff for him will be in week 15 against Arizona at home.
Yep.
But you got to get to week 15. If he has a bad game, you can probably drop him, right? And pick him up because he's not going to do anything for a while, I doubt.
Yeah, and no one's really going to pick him up as a matchup.
Who's watching for him? Yeah, exactly. Now, another guy we talked about, I think at this point he's more than a committee back. He's definitely the lead in the committee. Kerryon Johnson we didn't like last week against the Bears.
Yeah.
Which I think everyone was agreed, and then he goes out and has 2 touchdowns and looks pretty good.
Yeah, and he ended up, they gave LeGarrette Blount 2 goal line carries to get 1 yard. Didn't do it.
Because one of his touchdowns, at least one, I can't remember both, but definitely one was like LeGarrette Blount got the first carry on the goal line, got stuffed, and then they brought in Kerryon.
Yeah, I think it was actually the first 2 carries.
He might have been.
And then they brought in Kerryon, and he was able to jump over the pile because he's younger, more athletic, and less of a plotter than Blount.
Right.
No offense, but...
So, to LeGarrette Blount?
Yeah.
I don't think
he won us the Super Bowl.
Yeah, won us the Super Bowl? Who's us?
Sure. I don't know. New England.
Yeah, you were on the team?
Yeah.
So, Kerryon...
That's
right. Kerryon Johnson looks good. The Lions offense is really taking a nosedive, though. So what's his sort of outlook, do you think, going forward? And again, tough matchup this week coming up against the Panthers.
Yeah, their offense hasn't been great lately, but it seems that they're moving more towards trying to rely on the run game because traded Golden Tate, so now you got like 2 legitimate receivers in Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones. And Jones is banged up this week.
No.
So I kind of like Kerryon to get more carries this week.
Yeah, so another thing too, like we say, he looks good. And, the last 3 games, 2.8 yards per carry, 3.1, 3.6. He sort of padded those numbers with some receiving. Even last week when Theo Riddick was back, we were worried. He had 6 catches, 38 yards, a touchdown. Next couple of weeks are tough. Panthers, Bears, Rams. But then fantasy playoffs, Arizona, Buffalo, weeks 14, 15.
Yeah,
you love those.
Yeah, you look at those and you see like, hey, I can start this guy. He'll probably have a good chance at a touchdown, and he should have like between 4 and 5 yards carry.
Got to get there. Minnesota week 16 might not help you out much there, but an interesting guy. Another guy, though, to me, tough to sit anyone after a 2-touchdown game. But like I said, the yards per carry really aren't there as much as the volume is. 20 touches, tough to sit any running back who gets 20 touches. I don't feel good about him this week again. But maybe the Carolina defense still licking its wounds after last week.
Yeah, I think I might be a little higher on Kerryon than you are this week.
He's on the border.
Yeah, I'm curious as to where I have him ranked. I have him as the 18th best back this week.
Yeah, it's a 16 bye. That helps move guys up artificially, maybe.
Yeah, a bit. No, it definitely does. So, like, if all the guys were playing, it'd probably be in that fringy RB2 range. But
he's on the border. But yeah, he's an interesting one. A couple guys you didn't like last week who did pay off. Were the Titans. That was sort of my gut feeling. Don't have a great reason why. Just sort of liked what I saw the week before. I thought the Pats was a little trap gamey for the Pats, and sure enough, Mariota and Corey Davis went ahead and had a good game.
It's a trap.
Well, it's funny because I saw the same trap game that you did, but I still didn't think that Mariota and Davis were going to have great games. But they came out firing, and they attacked Stephon Gilmore, and, Davis put up, 124 yards and a touchdown, and Marcus Mariota had his second straight good game.
10 targets back-to-back now for Corey Davis.
Yeah, it seems like he's he's been getting the volume all along. It's just been the production hasn't been there. But maybe with Mariota fully healthy after that elbow injury that plagued him early in the year, maybe they're becoming closer to not must starts, but guys that you can rely on in good matchups.
Yeah, they're definitely not must starts this week. Again, fairly tough road matchup in Indy. Feels like a game where they're going to lean on the run. I don't know, but again, it's in a week with 6 buys. Corey Davis has to be right in that 30 or so range.
Yeah, you definitely can start him as a wide receiver 3.
And then you look going forward, Houston, the Jets. You're not scared of Jacksonville week 14. at the Giants, Washington, not really a great schedule. You know, Washington, I think, has slipped a lot lately. If you do make it to Week 16 with those guys, they're on the radar. Nothing about them or their matchups stand out really as, hey, you want these guys, but at the same time, not bad to have around.
Yeah, and you know, Davis has shown, specifically Davis, the ability to explode for big games. Because he had that big game against the Eagles, and granted, the Eagles secondary isn't that good, but, you know, if he can exploit, like, good matchups, like you said, against the Jets, or if the Redskins continue to be banged up, hit them and the Giants. So, like, that's 3 solid matchups in the crunch time of the season. So, yeah, but I was totally wrong on him last week. I was not expecting him to do
But I think that's
anything.
Corey Davis. I feel like that's Corey Davis's legacy. You don't totally see it coming. He has the huge game. People get excited. They say, hey, he's always gotten the targets. And then he has 2 crappy games. So
yeah,
that's sort of what he does. He's one of those dudes. I don't know. He'll probably have a year where he puts it all together.
Yeah, because this is what, his second year in the league
Yeah,
now?
you're not going to see it coming, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like year 3 is like a big leap year.
That's always what they say.
Yeah, it never happened.
I don't know if the evidence or the numbers still bear that out, but that always used to be the year 3 breakout was a big sort of fantasy cliche every year.
Yeah, it's
and people would write the preseason articles. Who's a third year? Like that was all you needed to know.
Yeah,
it's a receiver in his 3rd year. Draft him.
And then it was like, ooh, I spent a 6th round pick on Cordero Patterson.
Yeah, or whoever it was, and they don't. It's like, well, no, he has to A, be good, has to B, have a good quarterback, C, play just in an offense that's conducive to that, which I don't think the Titans really are.
Yeah.
So, but interesting guys. Anyway, those are a couple of the things we were wrong about. There was obviously more, but you know, we got some things right. We were all over something. I don't remember what, but we got something right.
We had to have gotten
We like
something
Matt
right.
Breida because I made a point to bring him up and talk about him.
Right.
Finally got him right.
He finally looked healthy was really the big thing there. And now he gets a bye week too, so hopefully for that stretch run, those last couple games of the fantasy regular season.
Hopefully. We were also wrong. We sort of said be careful with Andrew Luck, who he's got another bad matchup this week, so it's at this point, though, 3 touchdowns every single week. He's
a must start now.
That's
like
right.
I'm not gonna bet against Andrew Luck anymore.
At this point, no. Well, we said we don't like Tom Brady, so that was something. All right, let's move on to some of the highest trending players this week. We're gonna hit up. You know, we always use a different search engine. So just Google. Too cliche.
Yeah, we're
cool.
Yeah, we like to be different.
We like to be different, and we're also trying to get sponsored. This week we're going Windows Live, formerly MSN Search.
Oh, all right.
They need some hype. They need some pub.
Yeah, we need to give them that brand recognition they deserve.
Yeah, Windows. No one talks about them anymore.
Yeah.
Bill Gates, who's he? So anyway, we're gonna get on it. We're gonna hit up Windows Live, see who's popular on their analytics, because people look up Windows Live trends all the time. And one guy who's trending right off the top plays this Thursday, Chris Carson. Again, the whole Seahawks running back situation. We were once again bamboozled, hoodwinked by cheating Pete Carroll. So I think what happened last week was an in-game thing, and it was just, hey, Rashad Penny's playing better. I'm going to stick with him.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a hot hand.
Because Mike Davis came out and was getting the touches and was actually playing pretty well.
Yeah, you know, both of them played well. Both Davis and Penny played well. But the worst thing is now we're going into a short week where Chris Carson is coming back, according to Pete Carroll, again.
Which, probably be. If only Ian Rappaport reported that Pete Carroll said he was coming back, I know it wasn't true then.
Yeah, so we're still kind of on game time decision watch for Chris Carson.
For sure.
Pete Carroll is always overly optimistic or says the opposite of what he thinks is going to happen just to try to keep people off balance. But, you know, if Carson starts, the matchup with the Packers is a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I mean, they gave up, 100 yards to Frank Gore last week on like 13
Well, yeah,
carries.
90 rushing, but 100 total.
Okay.
Yeah.
100 total was what I was thinking, 90 rushing. So, I mean, they can be beaten. They've given up like 20 plus points to James White and Todd Gurley in consecutive weeks before that. So, Carson, if the volume is there and if he's healthy, definitely an RB2, but that's the big question. Is he healthy?
I mean, but even if he is active, it's like, are you going to give him a full I mean, a full load. These other guys have proven themselves to be decent. Why would he? And then you're trying to parse between, okay, well, is he a flex? Then is also Davis a flex? But is Penny going to do anything?
Yeah, and Pete Carroll, I think, specifically said, like, you can't get all three of them carries, which is true.
Right, which is absolutely true.
Because otherwise you'd be looking at 8 carries apiece and then no one ever really gets going. So you have to consider who's going to be the odd man out. Is it going to be Davis? Is it going to be Penny? Or do they activate Carson and just barely play him?
Right.
Or do they just roll with the hot hand? So
And then, so then you look at this. There, again, it's always trying to figure out, well, okay, this week obviously we're most focused on, but what about going forward? And they play San Francisco in week 13 and week 15. And then they play Kansas City in week 16.
wow.
So
okay.
that's a good situation. Unfortunately, their second Arizona game is week 17, but pretty good situation. Carolina week 12, that's whatever. Minnesota week 14, not a good matchup, but they got some good ones down the stretch. And then in the fantasy playoffs, if you get there, at this point, if you had to pick one and only one, which would you pick?
I think I would go Carson just because every time he's been in the lineup and healthy,
Right.
Carroll has given him carries. Like, he has a couple games this year with 25 plus carries.
Right.
Mike Davis has handled the workload while he's been out, but when Carson's been healthy, the workload hasn't been there. And Penny's just been in and out of the lineup like crazy.
Right.
And I think Brian Schottenheimer, the offensive coordinator, said today that Penny was still struggling to learn the offense.
Yeah.
And that was a concern for him coming out of college, too. That was something that teams were kind of worried about. So I would lean with Carson just because I think if he's healthy, he's going to be the guy.
Yeah, but I still think Penny's worth grabbing off the waiver wire just in case. Because with that schedule, I think you're going to want the Seattle running back.
Yeah, and the thing is, if Carson or Davis falls out of the rotation, Penny could do damage as a receiver or do damage even if he only gets like 5 to 8 carries a game.
Yeah.
So he's definitely worth grabbing, especially if you own either Carson or Davis or both, because then you guarantee that you have a starter as you push for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so. So Seahawks running backs, weird situation, but, we knew that going in. Another weird running back situation that's been weird all season. And I guess we have clarity now. No Le'Veon Bell. He's very popular on Windows Live yet again this week. And James Conner, we get the added wrinkle, though, James Conner having a concussion, etc. But yeah, Le'Veon Bell gone out. There's really nothing to say. I mean, obviously, I guess if you're in a dynasty league, he'll be on a different team. He'll be playing next year, and he'll be a top 5 pick, I would assume.
Yeah.
I don't know if enough of these backs have jumped him to knock him out of the top 5, but
It's possible. He's still top 10.
I don't know where he would have to go that you'd be so worried about him. Because I'm just thinking top of my head, right? Gurley's is ahead of him.
Yep, Gurley definitely.
I guess Hunt and Kamara probably ahead of him.
I'd definitely put Hunt and Kamara.
Especially since Ingram will probably be gone, right? So that'll be all Kamara.
Yeah, Ingram will be somewhere else.
I think
probably.
Hunt's done enough now. He's ahead of him. I still think Zeke's ahead of him.
Zeke's probably ahead of him. David Johnson, if he had an offensive line.
Well, right. So then you get into that. You get into those guys, and you start, I don't think you're even messing around with wide receivers or other things like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. It all depends on what type of team Bell ends up on. Because if he ends up on a team...
The interesting thing is who's going to go higher, James Conner or Le'Veon Bell?
That's a tough one.
Because James Conner's been phenomenal this year, so...
I would be surprised if...
Barkley's probably ahead of him.
Yeah, Barkley would be ahead, especially if they get a new quarterback in New York.
So now, Le'Veon might go 8th overall next year, might go 5th. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it so much depends where he goes. If he goes to Philadelphia and their line is back kind of healthy, I think people are going to flip out.
Yeah.
I don't know if he can go to. I'm just.
I don't think they have enough money.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I'm fairly certain he's going to end up on the Raiders.
Well, yeah, or wherever, right? If he was Raiders or Jets or something like that, then.
Yeah. Well,
who knows?
The reason for the Raiders is because John Gruden just likes veterans and he likes running games. So
Sure.
that's just my logic.
But yeah, so it's like it's Connor now. We're assuming, he'll play this week. I think everyone assumes, right?
Yeah, it's seeming like Mike Tomlin has said that he's probably going to play, and Jalen Samuels has been getting a little buzz though, so he might just take some touches, not a ton, but he's looking like the top handcuff there, just because he'll get some touches in the receiving game, just to spell Connor a bit, keep him a bit fresher, so they don't like run him out, because you don't want him running on fumes at the end of the season, because he's never really carried this big a workload.
But of course, the biggest thing about Jalen Samuels is, at least in Yahoo, I don't know about ESPN, but at least in Yahoo, he's tight end eligible.
Yeah, that is huge, because if he ends up starting at running back and is tight end eligible, that's pretty insane.
Right. But even if he's not starting, even if he starts getting, let's just say, 6 carries a game, a couple catches a game, he might be better than whatever tight end you're trotting out there.
Yeah, no, it's true. He's not tight end eligible in ESPN. I just looked it up.
So in Yahoo, if he's just getting 8 touches a game, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Probably not. Because they're probably not touches that are conducive to scoring touchdowns.
But you never know. So
never know. But he's a must-have. Like, grab him now, just because we're at that point. We'll be through the buys next week.
Yeah.
At that point, you don't need to carry backups, like a backup quarterback or a backup defense or a backup tight end, unless you're planning ahead to play matchups.
Yeah, well, I have 3 quarterbacks and 2 defenses.
Yeah, well, 3 quarterbacks is I don't understand that at all.
Oh, it's 2. The guy with Rodgers in my league has 1 quarterback. And it's Rodgers, so I'm just hoping that if Green Bay falls out of the playoff race, they'll bench him.
But there's still other quarterbacks he can pick up.
Oh, I know. I'm well aware of this.
It's not like you have every quarterback.
Not yet.
Right. But no, I love to stack defenses and plan a week, 2 weeks ahead. Like, there's been times where I've legitimately had 4 defenses on my roster at once in week 12. But the other thing that's smart to do, obviously, is grab your handcuffs just to ensure yourself as much as possible. All those, the Spencer Wares, the Malcolm Browns of the world.
Yeah, because even if you end up like just with a guy who's like mildly banged up, like either like Gurley or Hunt, for example.
Yeah, because at this point, the mediocre back, sort of committee, quasi-handcuff committee guy that you're like, maybe there's potential. Nah, they're not as valuable to you as having the handcuff to your backs who might completely start.
Yeah, and the thing is, are you ever going to start that quasi-committee back?
No, I mean, if you've made the playoffs and there's no buys, you should be good.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's something to think about with Jalen Samuels. But James Conner, looking good. He's going to be one of those guys who's on every keeper dynasty because everyone who drafted him got him, no earlier than like the 7th round max. So he's going to be great value. And he's just one of those guys, one of those years. It's going to pay off this year. It's going to pay off for a year or 2 down the road if you're in a dynasty league.
Yeah.
Which, almost not fair. So, all right, another guy, fresh. Last week we had Dez. We laughed about it. I laughed about it. You picked him up. I laughed about it.
I look stupid for that.
Well, I mean, he got hurt. You can't really.
It's not my fault.
No, and I can't claim I'm right. But I kind of can.
No, you can claim you're right about that.
I kind of can because what contributed to the injury, and I'm not happy he got hurt. I'm not like, take that.
No, we don't take pleasure.
That sucks especially because it's a career ender probably.
Yeah.
And so that's really unfortunate. I'm definitely not happy about that. But part of why I didn't like him was he was out of shape. And I think part of why he got hurt is because he was out of shape.
I mean, it makes sense. If he wasn't in athletic playing condition,
so
trying to work back that quick, you can suffer an injury. And
but
it really is unfortunate for Dez.
Yeah, because Dez, he's been a fun guy to have around, I think, in the league.
Oh yeah,
for all the shortcomings or things people want to say about him, and seemed. Yeah, seems like I think he's turned things around to at least some degree, but nonetheless, he's gone. So the Saints go. Well, who's another guy with a big name 5 years ago? They signed Brandon Marshall. So Brandon Marshall played this year. That's why he's at least in better shape than Dez Bryant.
Yeah.
Looked pretty washed up, which really isn't a surprise to anyone who saw him play last year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was definitely not good last year.
But no one has stepped up. I've loved Traquan Smith ever since the Drew Brees certificate game. But he just hasn't done it. I mean, he scored a couple weeks ago, but yeah, he just hasn't stepped up the way I thought.
Yeah, he hasn't been getting the targets either. It's
That too.
weird.
No secondary guys really stepped up for them in the receiving game. Ben Watson a little bit. But it's basically Michael Thomas and the running backs. And that's it. There's room for someone else to step up.
Yeah, and that's
Could it be Brandon Marshall?
It's possible. I don't think he's going to do anything great.
Right.
I mean, he was getting like 6 targets a game in the first 3 weeks in Seattle.
Right.
And he caught a touchdown and totaled like over 120 yards. But like, he's just not the explosive playmaking threat that he once was. I think everyone knows that though.
But can in an offense like the Saints, and he should see that was one thing I don't think either of us brought up when we were talking about Dez, like the whole idea of him seeing favorable coverage. I know a lot of other people were talking about that, and that's why a lot of people were way high on him, like not just fantasy but NFL, and I thought it was insane. But he's not going to be seeing that tough of coverage theoretically, and can he catch touchdowns? Can he be a glorified tight end basically? Catch some touchdowns. 4 catches, not a lot of yards probably, but
yeah, I mean, the room for opportunity is going to be there because like you said, they haven't had any secondary receivers step up. His presence should hopefully open up more opportunities for Traquan Smith too. I feel like when they get down in the red zone.
Yeah. So this is interesting to me though. So Dez Bryant gets the job. Immediately, just everyone, boom, he's like, okay, his ownership just jumps to 70% in Yahoo leagues. Yeah. Everyone's on him. Brandon Marshall gets the job, and he's still free agent in our league, 17% ownership. No one really cares. And it's like, it's weird. Like, I get it. Like, what Marshall's 4 years older, I think?
Yeah.
4 to 5.
Yeah, he's 34
He looked
right now.
washed up this year. So I get that aspect of it. Like, I didn't pick him up either. I'm not particularly excited about him.
Yeah.
As much as I'm trying to make a case for him. But it's just sort of weird how that perception, like, at least he's played this year. Like, Dez hadn't even played. And quite frankly, Dez looked fairly washed up the last couple years in Dallas.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could make a case that, like you said earlier, Marshall's in better playing shape. So why wouldn't he be better or equal to what Bryant would have provided? But I think it has to do with both name recognition and recency bias.
Yeah.
People remember that Dez wasn't great last year, but people also remember that Brandon Marshall hasn't really been good for like a few years now.
Right.
So I think that contributed to it more than anything else. Because he only has 4 touchdowns the last 3 years, Brandon Marshall. So
yeah, I mean, he only played 5 games last year. He didn't get cut, right? That was just an injury.
Yeah, he got hurt, but even in those 5 games, he was averaging 3 catches a game.
Right.
And
really 30, 31 yards a game. Right.
Yeah.
No, I get it. Like I said, I agree basically, but it's just kind of weird, that perception and how it affects things. But it will be interesting to see if he can do anything, because we've talked about they have the Bucks, I think, in week 13, which is a good match. I think they have like the Falcons and Bucks.
Yeah, they get a lot of those NFC South teams.
Right.
And like those are super favorable matchups.
So they have a couple good matchups where he could be interesting going forward. All right, another receiver who is good and in his prime, but was injured before last week, Stephon Diggs, popping up. People want to know, hey, is he healthy? How's he doing? Should be back. We kind of thought he was going to play before the bye.
Well, he said he was going to play. So
said he was, yeah.
But
didn't, but said he was.
I think that was probably the team being like, hey, you can sit this game out and get fully healthy over the bye.
Right.
So
we got a big division game coming up against the Bears right out of the bye. So the question with him, we assume he's going to play, assume he's going to be healthy. Let me look at it here. Let me look at his game log. So he's gotten 10 targets in all but 2 games this year, at least 10. And week 1 he didn't. Every game but 1 since then, he's gotten at least 10 targets. His last game before the bye, 10 catches, 11 targets, 119 yards and a touchdown. It was the first time he had scored since week 2. But, he's one of these interesting guys. His game log is so boom or bust, like the definition. But I don't really think of him that way. I think of him as like just a safe, steady, you play him no matter what receiver.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because he gets the targets, but he doesn't always get the production.
Right.
It's almost like he's a better version of Corey Davis.
Yeah, against the Jets, 8 catches, 15 targets, 33 yards, no touchdowns.
Yeah, that was the weirdest game log he's had this year.
Buffalo, 4 catches, 10 targets, 17 yards, no touchdowns.
I take it back. That was the weirdest game log he's had this year.
He averaged 4.3 yards a catch.
Yeah, that game was pitiful, though, for the Vikings.
Everything about that game. I think when we look back at the season, that's the game that's going to stand out as the
what the hell happened.
I mean, or maybe Saints Bucks, but yeah, that from week 1. But
that at least you can excuse for week 1, though.
Yeah, week 1 always is crazy. But so Diggs, I mean, yeah, he's just a stud going forward. I think Thielen, everyone agrees, Adam Thielen's the number 1, quote unquote, but Diggs gets number 1 receiver targets.
Yeah, they're kind of like 1A, 1B.
Right. So the real question, I guess we'll jump ahead a little bit here to what we talk about in the good start, bad start quarterback. Kirk Cousins, he's got 2 stud receivers. Got Dalvin Cook back, who's a good receiving back. You know, most weeks, I mean, we'll say that Thielen and Diggs are automatic starts, but then sometimes we're a little wary on Kirk Cousins. So how does that work? If we say, hey, both receivers could have good games, but Kirk Cousins might not.
I am confusion.
It is kind of weird.
Yeah, we count on halfback option passes? I don't know.
I mean, you know that I'm always rooting for those games.
Well, you root for wide receivers to throw to running backs, which I don't understand.
Well, I think it's because it happened like the first time this year when Odell threw to Saquon.
That's right.
So my brain is just associating with that.
Right.
But yeah, no, Cousins usually is a good start, but if you get into like this week, he has the Bears on the road, Soldier Field, prime time.
Right.
I just don't know if the touchdowns are going to be there. I can count on the receivers to get yards.
Exactly.
But QBs are much more dependent on touchdowns. I think that's what it boils down to.
I think it is. Because 100 yards for a receiver, it's 10 points. It's 4 for a quarterback.
Yeah.
So, no, it is interesting. But, I mean, the Vikings offense this week, this will be a good test for them. I think the receivers are must-plays. Really tough to sit Dalvin Cook, I think, even though it's a bad outlook.
Yeah.
Gosh, but it's just like we talked about before. Who were we talking about before? Kerryon Johnson. It's like, if you start saying sit those guys, who are you starting? That's because you should sit Jordan Howard. Spoiler alert for a little later. You know what I mean? So now you're pretty much into like, you should probably sit Marlon Mack based on the matchup, maybe Mark Ingram based on the matchup.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope.
At a certain point, you just got to start playing guys.
Yeah, at a certain point, you're just like, listen, this is like my only option. Because like, if you were to sit Dalvin Cook, then you're talking possibly like, do I start like Buck Allen against the Bengals? Yeah,
then you just start, you start guys who are going to get 8 touches. All right, last one. Trending high because he's injured, might not play. Anytime that happens with a starting quarterback, it's important for fantasy, gambling purposes, even if you're not going to play that quarterback in fantasy, which most people probably won't. Joe Flacco this week, hip injury. We don't know if he's going to play. The crazy thing about this one, we don't know who would start in his place.
Yeah, that's the fun part of this because everyone.
Fun.
I mean, I find it fun.
You're right.
This is what I live for.
Right.
Because everyone assumed Lamar Jackson would get the start and it would be his time to shine. But they also have Robert Griffin III on the roster. And I think a lot of people forget that because I forgot that.
Well, and the thing is, because I sort of made this joke before because we were arguing about, because I contend that if either Jackson or Robert Griffin III starts, they will turn it over at least twice. And you were like, oh, not RG3.
Yeah.
He don't turn the ball over anymore. And then I sort of just made a comment like, yeah, that's why he's inactive. But, I mean, the reason he's inactive is because they use Lamar Jackson in the gimmick plays.
Yeah, that's
the only reason.
Yeah.
So, that's not a sign that Lamar Jackson's the backup, per se.
Yeah, it's kind of more of a, hey, Lamar could finish this game as a starter. Flacco got hurt. But we also, because you can't really use RG3 in gimmick packages anymore. With the injury history.
He's going to turn it over if you do. So
I mean, I disagree with that.
Right.
What I'm interested to see is if Flacco's out, RG3 and Lamar Jackson will have chances to scramble against that Bengals defense, I think. I mean, that defense hasn't been good this year
That defense is like in the top 5 in fantasy points allowed to every position.
It's shocking how bad they are.
It really is. I mean, for a defense, like it's one thing when it's the Bucs or the Saints.
Yeah, but the Bengals started the year fairly well.
And most people, I think, like, oh, AFC North, Bengals, they're pretty good, right? And apparently not.
Yeah.
Apparently not.
I mean, I may or may not have bet on them to win the division.
But, well, right. So, I guess here's the question. You have this fantastic matchup against the Bengals. Every player, and almost every player on the Ravens is on the start-sit bubble most weeks. Because like John Brown even, who started the year so good, 3 of the last 4 games he's had like under 34 receiving yards.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens with him because he's boom or bust playmaker most of the time.
Crabtree, for all his targets, hasn't done a ton. Every week I say Willie Snead's the sleeper. Every week he gets 60 yards or fewer and no touchdowns. Alex Collins has driven his fantasy owners nuts all year. I don't think he's topped 68 yards in a game.
I think you're right.
But he scored like 3 times in the last 2. Yeah. Buck Allen, we thought, was maybe about to take over. Now he's back to like a nothing role, but then he scored last week. The tight ends, there's 4 of them. You can't narrow in on one. Like, every one of their players is on the start-sit bubble. This week, you're like, push all in. They're playing the Bengals.
Yeah.
But now they might be starting either a rookie or a guy who hasn't taken meaningful snaps in 3 years, 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's probably the biggest.
What do you do?
Biggest start-sit decision of the week is all the Ravens.
All the Ravens.
Like,
that's so Ravens. It's a show. It was a show.
I know.
It's a reference.
It was on when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I remember it.
See, when I was a kid,
oh boy,
she was on the Cosby Show as a little kid.
Oh,
Raven Simone.
I don't even think I knew that.
She was it's funny because the Cosby Show had Rudy. Because, you know, all those shows, even now, but especially 80s and 90s, they had a precocious young child.
Yes.
And it was Rudy. And Rudy was cute, and Rudy said things, and everyone laughed and laughed, but the show kept going, and they were like, oh, Rudy's a little too old to pull that crap now. And they were like, you know what? Let's bring in a granddaughter. And it was Raven. And I think her name was her name Sophia? I'll look that up, but whatever her name was, and she was the one who said the spunky, precocious things.
Okay. All right.
And she became that so Raven. And here we are today, referencing this in a fantasy football podcast.
Hey, it's not a bad thing.
It was a huge waste of time.
It was.
Getting back to the Ravens, what do you do? Let's just say Lamar Jackson starts.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, or RG3, there's really no damn difference. Either of them start, and that's not a racial thing, but if either of them start, what are you doing with the rest of the Ravens offense?
Gosh, that's tough.
Who are you starting?
I feel like I would have to start John Brown.
Olivia, not Sophia. That was her name on the Cosby Show.
Olivia. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I would probably start John Brown as a wide receiver 3. I mean, just that matchup with the Bengals defense is it's too good to pass up for that. Probably start Alex Collins because it means they're going to run the ball more. I would anticipate they would.
Right.
So that could move him up into the higher end RB2 territory.
Yeah.
And then pretty much every other offensive guy probably would sit.
All right. So yeah, I think Collins is a must start. I think you got to start Brown. I think both Crabtree and Snead and PPR are tough to sit in standard though. Big time border. And then this is where we get into the whole, again, we talked about the third-year wide receiver cliche. The young quarterbacks like to throw to the tight end cliche. Security blanket.
Oh, yeah.
Safety valve. But they don't. Mark Andrews has kind of been the lead guy. He's had 11 targets the last 2 weeks. He scored against the Bengals in week 2 for what it's worth. I think he's a starter, but it's real close.
I would probably agree with that.
Yeah.
Or you could start him depending on what your tight end situation is. He's like right on that tight end 1, tight end 2 borderline. I happen to like Mark Andrews. I think he's better than Hayden Hurst, who gets all the love for no real reason.
And we talked about that last week, how people are trying to speak him into existence.
Yeah.
But
He's a guy that next year might break out, but I just don't think this is his year.
He's going to be on every sleeper list next year, guaranteed. Yeah, so it's a tough situation, but as bad as the Bengals defense, we spent 20 minutes talking about how bad the Bengals defense is. If either of the Jackson or Griffin start, I think the Bengals defense should play because I think they'll still give up yards and some points, but I do think they'll get takeaways.
I wouldn't play
and
them.
Sacks.
I don't think they get
There you go.
I think that either of those quarterbacks will run all over him. I'd actually play Lamar Jackson or RG3 in DFS.
There you go.
Think that's the move.
That'll happen for sure, especially if it's Jackson.
If it's
Jackson.
Because he could run for 100 yards. No problem.
Right. So, I mean, but how do we know if a defense can't stop a running quarterback?
That's a good question.
I don't know we can look at their numbers, but I feel like just because it's a bad defense, quarterbacks don't necessarily run on them.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I guess.
I mean, just look who they faced. They faced Cam Newton. He had 36 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
That's really it they faced for a rushing quarterback. Taysom Hill, for what it's worth, had 4 carries for 24 yards.
All right, so they're not great against running
Well,
quarterbacks.
he doesn't count, though.
Yeah. Well, they run gadget plays when he's in, so I guess, yeah.
No, they really, I mean, I guess.
Mahomes had 45 yards on 4 carries, so.
Yeah, he's not really a running quarterback. But yeah,
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
Tannehill scrambles a bit, 3 for 17. I don't know. You never know.
Yeah.
But anyway, we went through. We went in depth on that matchup. We might as well just done the podcast on Ravens Bengals and only appealed to a very, very niche crowd.
I know.
But anyway, now let's get into the good bad matchups. We obviously already talked about some. We'll talk about a lot more. Just a reminder, bye weeks this week. It is horrible because it's almost all bad teams.
Yeah, the only really good team on bye, I think, is the Patriots.
Yeah, Jets. It's the entire AFC East, which already 3 bad teams.
Yeah.
And
Well, don't say that too loud. There are some Dolphins believers in the office.
is there? Who?
Isn't Carissa a Dolphins fan?
Oh, maybe.
I think she
She's
is.
a Penn State fan. But yeah, there's and then the Browns and the 49ers. So I made this comment. I couldn't believe for a week with 6 teams on bye, only 3 fantasy starting normal fantasy starting receivers are off.
Oh, yeah.
That's impossible.
Yeah, it's what, Landry, Edelman, Gordon?
Yeah, that's it. And
Yeah.
even those guys haven't been great.
Yeah, Landry is trending way
Huge
down.
disappointment.
Yeah.
Edelman just got hurt.
Yeah.
And then even Gordon, he's obviously been better lately, but he's not a guy.
He's trending in the right direction.
I think he's a
now.
guy you at least think about every week, depending on your depth. Okay, do I want to start him?
Yeah. No, for sure.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, it is bizarre how bad the receiving situations on all the teams on bye this week are.
So anyway, it kills we don't do defenses on here, but it is killing defenses this week. And then you factor in that the Rams playing the Chiefs, the Eagles are playing the Saints. Even Vikings Bears playing each other isn't good, but they're still starters.
Yeah.
Because they have to be. And the Jaguars are playing the Steelers. It is brutal out there.
Yeah, I told my friend Double D that it's literally the worst slate of defense matchups I've ever seen.
It really is. So, all right, let's get into it. Quarterbacks, guys with good matchups. Dak Prescott, last week, mostly came through. Eli Manning.
Oh,
God, I said we'd never recommend him again after the Falcons game.
but here we are.
Here we are. And I just threw Blake Bortles on there.
Yeah, why not?
He had success against them last year, right? The
Yeah.
Steelers.
Yeah, I
They're
think.
at home. He's okay.
Yeah, the Steelers might come in a little bit too up on their high horse after that win.
There's a chip on their shoulder, so that's why I don't really like Blake Bortles.
Yeah,
I decided to just throw him on there just in case. Then we got bad Roethlisberger against the Jaguars.
yeah, they had his number last year.
Big time. Yeah, I mean, he racked up stats in garbage time.
Yeah,
in the AFC title game.
but they were trailing the entire game
AFC
there.
divisional round. Matt Ryan against the Cowboys. Tough one, but he's at home.
Yep.
We mentioned Andrew Luck already against the Titans.
Yeah, that one's a tough matchup, but you just can't sit Luck.
I don't think he can. And then Trubisky against the Vikings at home.
Yeah.
So I guess just rank them. Rank those quarterbacks. Who would you sit
Who would I sit?
of the bad? Yeah, the bad starts, tough starts.
I would probably sit Roethlisberger. I would sit Trubisky. Trubisky would be my top sit among those guys. I would sit him first, then sit Roethlisberger. Matt Ryan, I'm really on the border, but I think because he's at home, I would play him.
Right.
And I do think that the Atlanta defense is going to give up a lot of yards, so that means that Ryan's going to have to throw.
Aaron Jones is back. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. And then Andrew Luck, I think, is just a must start at this
Right.
point, so I'm not going to
I
recommend
think I'm
sitting
with
him.
you. I think I'm
Yeah.
more likely to play Roethlisberger than Ryan, honestly.
Really? Interesting.
But I like his receivers better. That's just it. I know Road Ben has this big thing, and home Ryan is good.
Yeah, I think
They're pretty equal to me. I'll put it that way.
I'm buying into those splits a little more. And
That's fine. Man, Antonio Brown killed the Jags last year.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
He had he had 30 targets and again, there's a lot of garbage time, a lot of playing from behind that no doubt contributed, but he had well over 100 yards in both games. He had like 280 yards total in the 2 games.
Wow.
And like 11, something like 15 catches on 30 targets and a couple touchdowns. I think he gets up for a game like this against Jalen Ramsey. He likes it. We know Juju. Jags didn't look great last week. They came out the bye. Didn't really look great last week. Now, it was tight ends doing the damage.
Yeah, but
yeah, whatever.
But that's just because that's the weaponry that the Colts have.
Yeah.
It's T.Y. Hilton and the tight ends.
And what they focus on. So among those good starts, I think Dak is a start. So it comes down to this. Would you play Dak over Ryan or Roethlisberger?
I would play Dak over Roethlisberger, and I think Ryan over Dak. But it's
tough.
very close between those last two. Like, I think I have them ranked back. Yeah, I have them ranked 11 and 12.
Right.
Ryan 1 spot ahead of Prescott this week. And
I think I'd play Prescott over both. It does feel like you're limiting your ceiling when you play Prescott.
that's more what it's about, just because Elliott could get
Well, and then we go
yards.
back to this. Every quarterback is thrown for at least 3 touchdowns against the Falcons, except the other 3 quarterbacks in the NFC East.
Yeah.
Those are the only 3 not to. And now, granted, it was Nick Foles, not Carson Wentz, but Nick Foles, Alex Smith,
burying the lead a little bit
and
there.
Eli
But,
Manning.
Yeah.
And Eli Manning threw for almost 400 yards against him. And then, Alex Smith bombed, and Nick Foles wasn't very good either. But so I feel like Dak can get to 3 total, whether it's 2 passing, 1 running, whether it's 3 passing, whatever it is. I mean, the Cooper thing seems pretty legit.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Zeke has really stepped up in the receiving game.
Yeah, no, he's been really good as a receiver.
Which
but
I mean, not to pat myself on the back too much, but I predicted that before the year that he was going to really improve in the receiving game. And you look at him now; he's got 35 catches this year. He's already set a career high in receptions.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's just a matter of getting him the ball more because they didn't have as many offensive weapons and didn't have to funnel targets to Dez.
Would you dare start Eli? Would you start Eli over Trubisky?
No. I wouldn't start Eli over Bortles. I just don't have any faith in Eli.
Tampa's so bad, though.
I know. I just can't do it.
I know. I get it.
Like, Eli's floor is just so low.
Yeah, it really is. And
like-
even what's his ceiling? I mean, like even last week he threw 3 touchdowns, but had 188 yards.
Yeah. And it's like, is he really going to get 3 touchdowns in consecutive weeks at this point in his career?
Right. I still just am like, man, he's got to have that game, right, where Barkley, Beckham, maybe Shepard or 2 to Beckham or whatever, each have like 3 60-yard touchdown catches where they do almost all the work.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen. It's this week against Tampa, but
It's true. I just feel like he can't have good back-to-back.
Yeah.
It's like your theory on how David Moore can't score in
that's fair.
4 straight games and then he dropped 2 touchdowns.
We're comparing David Moore to a guy with 2 Super Bowl MVPs. But
Well, we don't talk about that.
Well, right, yeah. So anyway, those are some of the interesting quarterbacks to watch out for. Running backs, we got a bunch. Good matchups for some of the fringy guys. We got Doug Martin at the Cardinals, old Doug Farton, who defied, you know what I said about
Hey,
him
it's
before.
Doug's starting.
Doug's starting. I wish I had gotten him. Eric got him a week in advance, so good for him. We're all very proud. We already talked about the Ravens guys. Peyton Barber, this guy is up and down every week. Just totally depends on the matchup. And, Derrick Henry.
Oh, man, you love Derrick Henry.
I hate him. And then I mentioned all the bad running backs, Delvin Cook, the Bears guys, Marlon Mack, Mark Ingram. So I would start, we have Doug Martin, and I'm pretty sure we have Alex Collins ranked ahead of all those other backs.
Yes, that is true.
Which I think is smart because of the matchups. I think you have to. Doug Martin's getting 15-plus touches every week.
Yeah, because even if the game script goes in the opposite direction, which it might, like where it becomes more pass heavy, Martin will first of all still be on the
Can
field.
the Cardinals blow anyone out, though?
I mean, I
think
thought
so.
they'd beat the Chiefs last week.
Well, that was insane. But yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess they could, especially if they get like a big takeaway or something like that. But
Yeah, but the thing is they're going to give him like 5 carries on the first drive of the game no matter what.
Right.
So he's going to get early touches. And
right. So then when it comes to like Peyton Barber, Derrick Henry, banes of my existence, can you start either of them over a guy like Ingram, who's coming off a monster game that should have been bigger, but that's no one's business but his own? Marlon Mack, who was so good before last week. And then Dalvin Cook, who's back, stud. And then, those Bears guys who are just driving their fantasy owners nuts.
Yeah, it's hard to recommend Barber or Henry over any of them, really. I think you have to start Marlon Mack. I think you have to start Dalvin Cook. Mark Ingram and Jordan Howard, you can convince me to take them out in favor of Barber or Henry. Probably, not Henry. Barber versus Ingram and Howard would be the thing that I'd have to consider. I still think I'd rather start Ingram just because he's in a better offense and that has the potential to be a really high scoring game. But Barber and Howard is really a coin flip because I feel like they're both just touchdown dependent options.
Yeah, so I think you hit on the head with Ingram. I think you just got to start him, a guy in that offense. He can catch the ball. He can run. We just know he can go off. He can not have good games. He can go off. You have to take that chance. I feel that way with Mack, even though Tennessee, fewest fantasy points to running backs. Even though they allow fairly healthy amount of rushing yards to running backs, they've allowed
3 rushing touchdowns?
3 rushing touchdowns all season. 1 to James Devlin.
I love James
And then
Devlin.
2 to Alex Collins. That's it.
Yeah. So, and that Devlin one was kind of a garbage one last week because the Patriots are already trailing big.
So I look at that, and this is my opposite of the guy can score. They're due to start giving us some rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? Last time you said that was before Alex Collins played that and scored 2 touchdowns.
And he didn't have a very good game. I mean, they're good just limiting backs on yards per carry basis too. But I just think Mack does enough catching the ball, running the ball. I don't know. Like most of the time, a guy like him, I'd see that and I'd get freaked out. I feel like they're being that low is kind of, when it's touchdowns, it's kind of fluky.
Yeah.
And we know the Colts can drive the ball. They can move the ball.
Yeah. So they're not going to be able to sell out to stop the run, the Titans, that is.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not nearly as worried about Mack as I probably should be. I don't want anything to do with those Bears running backs.
Yeah, I don't think I do either.
I was looking at this. So you look at the Vikings stats, right? And they're like, 6 fewest fantasy points to backs. They're good, as I think most people would expect. And then you see it and you go, I think they're like 8th fewest. And then it's like 54.4 receiving yards to backs. And I'm like, well, that's pretty healthy. That bodes well for Tariq Cohen, right?
Yeah.
Well, they gave up a 56-yard reception to Kyle Juszczyk in week 1. They gave up a 55-yard reception to Chris Ivory in week 3.
Yeah.
That really inflates those numbers.
Oh, yeah.
And then you look at it, Trenton Cannon had 4 for 69 against them. Okay, that's pretty good. Like the closest comps I feel to Tariq Cohen, Theo Riddick, 7 catches, 36 yards. Todd Gurley had a good game receiving, but he's Todd Gurley. He doesn't count.
Tariq Cohen isn't Todd Gurley.
Yeah, and so he's more explosive than like Riddick and Cannon, and he'll probably get more carries than them. Like he gets usually at least 5 carries. So there's upside there. There's plenty of potential. I think in PPR, you still have to start him. I don't know, though. I don't really want to start either of those guys just because they're so unpredictable.
Yeah, if I had to pick one, I'd pick Cohen. But
yeah,
I would avoid them in this matchup for sure.
Right, and then Dalvin Cook to me is real tough.
Yeah,
because it wasn't just that he came back like he had 100 total yards and looked great.
Yeah, but also a lot of it came on that 170
exactly.
yard carry,
It was one big play.
So can that happen against the Bears?
The Bears are really good. But yeah, if you're not starting him, do you start paying Barber over him? I think so. But I would totally understand why someone wouldn't want to.
I think I would go with Cook's upside over Barber just because you also don't know, like, if the Giants somehow get out to a lead. I
don't think it's a somehow. I mean, we're talking about the Bucs defense.
Yeah.
We're talking about a team that throws 2 interceptions every game. I mean, it could easily be 14-0 at the end of the first quarter in that game.
And that's where I'm worried about Barber.
Right, and that's a very fair worry.
Yeah, so I think that's why I'd go with Cook over him because Cook will see action no matter what. And Barber could get a touchdown. Barber could have a really good game, but it's just hard to trust him.
And here's a lead pipe lock guarantee of the week. Derrick Henry is not going to score in 4 straight games.
All right.
Just not going to happen. And you want to know why? I definitely know that because he's in my lineup this week.
Oh,
I have not gotten
is.
any of those touchdowns, and he's back in with Breedon bye. So
I still think it's the best part is that you didn't even really want or like Derrick Henry, but you felt that you had to draft him.
Nope, took him. Haven't gotten one of those touchdowns. He's the worst. And here we are. And now it's a decent matchup on paper against the Colts. He's on a hot streak.
So he's due to get cold.
And he's going to have 6 carries for 19 yards. There's zero doubt in my mind, in my lineup.
If he has that exact stat line, I will buy you a meal.
At least Chipotle,
from one of our
right?
sponsors. Yeah,
one of our sponsors from Windows Live.
Yeah.
We'll go on Windows Live, look up the nearest Chipotle. All right, wide receivers. There's a bunch. All the Eagles guys at New Orleans, good. Cowboys guys at the Falcons, obviously good. Seahawks guys versus Green Bay is good. Cardinals guys versus Oakland, good. The negatives, Dallas, who's been awesome against wide receivers all year. I mean, Julio Jones is still starting, but I think Ridley's a real question.
Yep, Ridley's a big question mark.
Bucks receivers against the Giants. We don't think of the Giants as a good defense, but they've been holding down receivers all year. And we know the Bucks are a nightmare every week. Which one of them is going to do something good?
Oh, yeah, they have 6 options.
The Redskins against Houston, not good on paper. And this one snuck up on me. I did not realize the Chiefs were now in the red in terms of fantasy points allowed to wide receivers.
I didn't realize it had gotten that bad. I knew it was trending down.
They're 25th.
Wow, okay. That is
So, but with the Rams, whatever, they're matchup proof. I guess really the only question for that one is Josh Reynolds, a guy I think a lot of people with Cooper Kupp's injury thought, hey, Josh Reynolds, breakout sleeper, etc. Love the Chiefs matchup.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah, this wouldn't be the week that I would test out Reynolds.
Yeah.
He's a good stash on the bench, and then after the bye, you can start him for the fantasy playoff runner for the playoffs. So.
Here's a good one.
All right.
Last wide receiver to catch a touchdown against the Chiefs. Who was it?
I have it on my computer screen, so it's not a fun guess.
Oh, okay. Tim Patrick.
Yep.
So the last real wide receiver to catch a touchdown against the Chiefs, Julian Edelman in week 6.
Yeah. I remember when Tim Patrick caught that touchdown too. You just turned to me and you go, who is Tim Patrick?
I probably said the F word in there as well, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you definitely did.
Right, yeah. So
I think that was the day I dropped it at least 100.
So they've only allowed 2 wide receiver touchdowns, one of which was to Tim Patrick. When I see that, I assume it was a trick play. I don't even remember.
No, he was just in on a goal line play, I think.
Right. 2 since week 3. Pretty amazing. And only one 100-yard receiver, A.J. Green, in that span. Only one to get more than 78 yards in that span.
Are we
A.J.
sure
Green.
I know these numbers are right, but are we sure the Chiefs defense
Well,
is
I'm starting to wonder if they're right because they don't seem like they can be right, but I'm looking at what I'm looking at. So
Well, they give up the most points to running backs, so that's probably
and tight ends kill them.
Yeah.
So there you go. But anyway, so yeah, X out Josh Reynolds for now, but I do like his potential upside. So we look at this. The Eagles, Golden Tate, nothing last week.
Yeah.
It looked like a guy who barely knew the offense, even though he'd been there 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising that they didn't try to get the ball.
It wasn't just a tough matchup. It was like, wow, is Golden Tate even on the deal? So this week, playing the Saints, most fantasy points to wide receivers. I mean, he's a must start, right?
Yeah. I don't see how you can sit him in the matchup. He has another week to get involved. Maybe they give him more plays this time around. I just feel like you can't sit him in this matchup.
So then Nelson Aguilar, who was actually their leading receiver last week, who a lot of people wrote off.
That's depressing.
Now what happens with him? Are we just like, yeah, Nelson Aguilar, or was it just saying, yeah, well, he had a couple big plays and
I feel like it's more the latter. It's just that he had a couple big plays.
But he might be good this week.
He might be good this week. But like you could trust him as like a wide receiver 3 flex, I'd say.
In the mix, PPR probably better than standard. All right, Cowboys guys, do we trust anyone other than Amari Cooper even in this fantastic matchup?
Man, I don't think so. Like,
you just can't. You can't figure out if it's going to be Hearns or Gallup or Beasley.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
That's just what it boils down to. And like you'd like to think it would be Hearns. Mm-hmm. Just because he projects.
I think a lot of people like to think it'd be Gallup, but yeah.
I'd like to think it would be Hearns, but you're probably right about that. But I think Gallup's too streaky for now. So yeah, just Cooper there.
Beasley, if you're in PPR, might be intriguing. But
Right. Maybe. Yeah. All right. Seahawks guys. I feel like Lockett's established himself as just an every week play you don't even think about. Doug Baldwin, I feel, looks healthier. But now we got the quick turnaround.
The quick turnaround makes me nervous for him, especially because he didn't do much last week.
Right. So are we getting excited about him at all?
I'm not
Is he in your lineup? It's a great matchup.
Do I have him? Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
He is in my lineup.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think, start him as a wide receiver 3 probably. But like I'm not confident in that. It's a good matchup.
All right. And then the Cardinals, I feel like, okay, you're going to start Larry Fitzgerald, I guess.
Yeah.
Against the Raiders. Christian Kirk was bubbling for a while, and now it feels like
It seems that Rosen's targeting Fitzgerald more finally.
and targeting Seals Jones.
Yeah,
Our
Ricky
boy.
Seals-Jones.
He's back in the sleepers again.
Yeah.
Every week. Good matchup. All right. So then he comes down to like some of the guys we mentioned, right? Like the Aguilar, any of those secondary cop with Doug Baldwin even. You playing him over Calvin Ridley.
Probably not. I think Ridley's better there.
So I would play Baldwin over him, not the other guys. Like the Aguilar, Christian Kirk fringe types or any of the Cowboys.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't even consider those guys. The Baldwin Ridley question is a legitimate one.
Ridley, man, talk about another guy who hasn't done much. He had that 3-game scoring streak, scored 6 touchdowns total or whatever. 1 touchdown since then. 1 game, I think, over 54 yards.
Yeah, I guess he has really cooled off.
Cowboys are brutal against wide receivers too.
They are. I mean, they did a number on Alshon Jeffrey last week, and really, without that one big pass play to Aguilar, like they just allowed nothing.
Which Bucks guys this week?
Which one?
Yeah. Which one? Which two? Which anything?
Goodness.
I mean, I still feel like Evans is just a must start.
Yeah, well, you have to start Evans. I think Evans is probably gonna have the best game this week. And then I guess.
Can you start any of the others? I feel like now we're in that. They're kind of like they're better than the Cowboys secondary guys, but kind of the same.
Yeah, they're much better talent-wise, I will say that, but you just can't trust that they're going to get enough targets because I think the pecking order in this game goes Mike Evans, O.J. Howard at tight end is going to have a big game.
Right.
And then maybe Chris Godwin would be my third, but like it could be Deshaun Jackson, could be Adam
And
Humphries.
Jackson can always rip off the big one. So
Yeah.
the fact is a bad matchup on paper. To me, I'm only starting Evans out of that group. Redskins guys, Doxson 2 games in a row scoring, feels like the number 1 receiver. Maurice Harris is still there. They were really disappointing last week in a great matchup.
Yeah.
Not just production. I mean, Doxson scored, but 4 and 5 targets respectively. 4 for Doxson, 5 for Harris surprised me. Houston now is a tough matchup on paper, but I wrote about how they really have sort of taken advantage of a favorable schedule.
Yeah.
At least in terms of. So here's who they've faced: New England without Edelman and Gordon,
Right.
week 1. Tennessee, not a good passing offense. The Giants, Eli Manning. Yeah, they got good receivers, but it's Eli Manning. And by the way, the Giants, Shepard 80 yards and a touchdown, Odell 109.
Yeah.
So not good. Then the Colts. Yeah, they're pretty good. They're a pretty good one. And you look at that one, Zach Pascal had 56 yards and a touchdown. That was a long overtime game, so these were a little padded. But Chester Rogers, 8 for 85. T.Y. Hilton, 4 for 115.
Yeah.
Wasn't good. Then they faced the Cowboys. No Amari Cooper. We know that's a bad passing offense. The Bills don't count. Still gave up a touchdown, by the way, to Zay Jones. Jacksonville, pretty bad passing offense, I feel like. The Dolphins, bad passing offense. And then even Denver, for that matter.
Yeah, Denver's not great.
Not great. They got some talent. So it's like you look at that number and then you say, oh, well, 6 fewest fantasy points. I guess. Now, to be fair, the Redskins are not a good passing offense either.
No, they're not. And I was on the Alex Smith has to have a good game in these last 2 games for 2 weeks now.
Yeah, Falcons, Bucks, yeah.
Yeah, and he didn't deliver. So
I guess if you say, well, they're good against bad passing offenses, the Redskins are probably pretty similar to Jacksonville, Miami, Denver. So why get excited about Doxson or Harris? But I don't know. I just feel like they're not bad plays. I'll put it that way.
yeah, I could feel starting Doxson, I think. I just think he's going to become more of that red zone target for Smith.
Right.
And Smith's been shaky on some of his downfield throws this year, which isn't surprising.
Yeah.
No, everyone coming into this year was like, oh, Alex Smith had his best downfield passing season last year, his best in the league. And I'm like, do you think it's going to last? And they're
Right.
like, yes. And I'm like,
That
no.
seems foolish.
Yeah, it was like So you're going to go with 1 year, one recent year over 10 years of just him being
mediocre. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't mind those guys. I guess it's kind of like the Marlon Mack thing. I probably should dislike them more than I do. And then, we already talked about the Rams guys. So, I don't know. I guess it comes out like, would you rather play Nelson Aguilar or Josh Doxson?
Doxson easy.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
I'd rather play the target/red zone targets compared to the matchup there.
Yeah.
I'd rather play him than Christian Kirk. Doxson versus Baldwin to me is right on the border.
Yeah, that one is very close.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably would lean slightly towards Doxson, actually.
I know. We like Josh Doxson too much.
We do. It's a problem.
Yeah,
Because now that we've said this, he's going to catch 0 passes.
I bet on him in the preseason, and he has not paid off, so I'm trying to speak into existence, but we'll see. All right, tight ends. We can run through these losers quick. We got good matchup guys. The Panthers are the absolute worst at covering tight ends.
Far
the
and away.
Lions don't throw to tight ends. Does anything give?
Michael Roberts, maybe, but you're not starting him over.
That's just total touchdown or bust.
Yeah, he's a good cheap DFS play.
So I think a Lions tight end will score a touchdown. I don't know which one.
Yeah.
And you can't play him. All right, Ricky Seals-Jones every week. He's back. We already mentioned the Ravens guys. And then both the Steelers, Jaguars, very quietly are among the worst teams against tight ends this year.
Really?
They've really snuck up there. And then good ones, or I should say bad matchups, the Colts tight ends, who have just been unstoppable lately against Tennessee, and the Bucs tight ends. You already mentioned you like O.J. Howard against the Giants. Even though statistically it's a bad matchup. I'm with you, though.
I feel like the Giants haven't played that many good tight ends, but I could be wrong about that.
Well, they were horrible last year. They've been better this year, obviously. They just got roasted by George Kittle.
Yeah.
Howard had his first dud of the year last week. I feel it's a bounce back spot. To me, he's a must start. But the big question this week is Ebron.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's he's leading the league or tied for the league leading touchdown catches, I believe.
I think it's total touchdowns. He's tied in second.
That might be it.
Touchdowns. Catches.
Scored 3 last week. We talk about how Andrew Luck, no matter he's matchup proof, you have to start him. I feel like that's the case with Ebron.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we're trending towards that territory, but I do feel like he's going to put up a dud at some point.
I know, me too. And it's like, it's because I don't own him. I'm so cavalier and just saying, I'll sit him. If I own him, I'd probably be like, moron, I can't sit Eric Ebron.
Yeah.
But it is. Tennessee is brutal against tight ends. They're the best in the league. And there's just, between Doyle and Ebron and now Mo Alley Cox getting red zone target, there's only so much to go around.
Yeah, and that's just the thing, because I think Ebron had 3 catches and 1 carry last week.
3 catches on 3 targets, 1 carry, and 3 went for touchdowns.
Yeah. If he keeps getting that kind of smaller volume, he's not going to produce at a high clip every time, and Jack Doyle's going to take some looks from him. And
absolutely.
Ebron might be the primary guy right now, but
and the Titans aren't good against wide receivers. This feels like a Hilton, Dontrell Inman game, not a Ebron game.
Yeah. No.
But they kind of use him like a wide receiver, so I don't know. If you own him, I can't imagine you sitting him. You're certainly not sitting him for Ricky Seals-Jones or Mark Andrews. Maybe Vance McDonald, but you're still probably not doing it. Our boy James O'Shaughnessy, great matchup this week, but you're not sitting Eric Ebron for him.
No.
But yeah, I do like those other guys sort of in a vacuum, but I get it. This is one of those where we're hedging hard, and then if he does have a bad game, we'll puff our chests out, and if he is good, we'll be like, we said you have to start him.
Yeah, so this is the ultimate,
we're riding the fence, ultimate losers, not taking a stand, but anyway.
Yeah, I think Jeff Hireman has a good week. I don't know why.
No, the targets were there.
Yeah.
Feels a little bit like a trap, but
oh, it definitely is. But I'm just on the Hireman bandwagon.
Yeah, we want to like him.
I'm the captain of the train.
All right, and that wraps up the good starts, bad starts, not sleepers and busts, not start sits. Is there anything else from last week or going into this week?
We got some revenge games coming up.
Oh, we love that narrative.
Yeah,
we got Jimmy Graham
Oh man,
The big one, not an international incident anymore, but could have been the Marcus Peters revenge. Something's going to happen there.
Oh, he's going to go crazy. He's going to talk more trash than Keenan Allen did against the Seahawks.
Well, I don't know how much trash he's going to talk when Tyreek Hill burns him for like a 80-yard touchdown on the third play of the game. But
oh, he's going to still talk trash.
Probably.
It's Marcus Peters,
I
man.
feel like the Steelers-Jags got to have bad blood after last year.
Yeah, I feel like the Steelers should be angry, and I feel like now that Le'Veon Bell's not there, that all that apathy directed to him is like gonna make them angry too. So
maybe
they should be able to win.
But there's some interesting kind of matchups like that. Some teams got some payback coming. But yeah, I mean the Mexico thing is I'm glad that didn't come down to like game time or they were gonna try to play it because that fantasy owners usually go if nothing makes fantasy owners freak out more than snow. But poor field conditions, because we just have no idea what that's going to bring.
Yeah, what that means. And especially where it was like a prominent player said he was considering sitting out. Like, I don't know who that might be. It's probably a big-time fantasy producer, though.
Yeah, or it's just made up, but...
That too. I mean,
report it? Yeah, it's made up then.
Was it?
No,
I think it was Schefter.
No, it was. Well, then it's legit.
Yeah.
But, no. I mean, so just good. They announced it early. We don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. So
That's good.
Yeah, that way we don't have to deal with panicked questions about field conditions that we don't know anything about either.
No, you don't know how that's going to affect things for sure. So, all in all, we get through this 16 bye. We got what, 4 teams on bye next week or 2?
Just 2, Chiefs Rams.
2. Chiefs, but it's Chiefs Rams. Like that's.
I guess that'll be bad.
Yeah, that takes out way more fantasy relevant players than this week's bye does.
That is sadly true.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like I said, one quarterback who hasn't been, spoiler alert, hasn't been doing that good lately, Tom Brady. Mayfield's actually been pretty good, but I don't think he's like a regular starter.
Yeah, he's like the top streamer.
I mean, I guess every team's got a running back that matters just because all running backs matter.
Yeah, Chubb's good. I like Chubb.
Yeah, even though you got chubbed last week.
Well, I got chubbed in one league and I chubbed in another.
Yeah, you got chubbed hard, but you did some hard chubbing as well. And then tight ends, I mean, I guess Njoku, Gronk, if he plays, and Kittle, so there was 3.
Yeah.
And the Rams don't have one, so yeah. But I feel like Kelsey counts as 3.
Yeah, I feel like it's based more on the impact of all these players. Like collectively, the pool of players probably has the same impact.
And both the Rams Chiefs can be at least streamed their defenses in the right matchup. So
yeah,
a 2-team bye way more impactful than a 3-team bye next week. Than a
6-team this week. Yeah,
it's crazy. But anyway, such is life. And then we get through it. We'll be back next week, probably a little earlier because of the Thanksgiving weekend. We'll knock it out. You won't be here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'll be devouring.
Eric will be back to tell me how great he was at fantasy when he was in Europe. So I can't wait. What a pro. And but anything else you need this week, sportingnews.com/fantasy. You can find our sleepers and bust pick, all our rankings, PPR, standard flex. All the updates on the injury guys. Last week there was like hardly any, and this week's shaping up to be pretty sparse too, which is bad for our traffic, but good for fantasy owners. So way to go. You guys did it. And we got lots of DFS stuff, of course, lineups, FanDuel, Yahoo, DraftKings, sleepers, stacks, values, all that good stuff. So please check us out. And, if you like the podcast, subscribe, keep listening, tell people about it. If you don't just shut up. Like, no one needs to hear that then if you don't like it. Just keep it to yourself, all right? Go listen to someone else. There's like literally 10,000 fantasy football podcasts out there. Find one you like. Keep quiet. But anyway, that wraps up this week. Week 11. Should be a good one. Derrick Henry, 6 carries, 19 yards. That's the official Sporting News prediction.
You heard it here first.
And we'll see what happens. So for Jacob Kamaker, I'm Matt Letuski, and we'll see you next time.